Well, hello, my name is Jim Royal. I'm a huge Beatles and Elvis Presley fan and basically classic rock in general. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. If you can do a thumbs up, that's always most appreciated. And feel free to leave comments. I always enjoy reading them and I do my best to try to respond in a timely manner. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about one of those long out-of-print Beatle albums. This is a compilation of previously released material. It probably was out for about 15 years before it went out of print. And I am talking about a collection called The Beatles 20 Greatest Hits. This is the US version I'm holding in my hand right here. It was originally released October 11th, 1982 on the Capitol Records label. And then I also have the UK version, which was released in the UK a week later on October 18th on Parlophone EMI. Now, why I wanted to talk about this is because, you might think that you have pretty much everything. Maybe you're not familiar with this one. Maybe you're a completist. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. And this is a special album in its own way. Later on, the Number Ones album would replace this. There were two albums that came out that were best ofs before. Basically, you have the Beatles 1962 to 66, and then you have the Beatles 67 to 70. These were both double albums that were really huge, that were released April of 1973, which have all those songs on there and more. Now, why did they release this? Let me tell you. So basically, this was to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Beatles' first single, and that would be Love Me Do. Okay, so it was 20 years. And it also chose 20 chart-topping singles, for the most part, on here. So these would have been the higher number ones, the higher singles that would be on the charts. And the other idea was to have it on a single disc. So you have singles, chart-topping singles, on a single disc. So I kind of like that idea too. Now, besides the LPs that were released, there were also the cassettes. This is the US version. This is the UK, and I'll show you in more detail later on what they look like. Now, they also had some 8-tracks that were apparently made. From what I read, there was about 16 to 18 of these 8-tracks, but by 1982, 8-track was not selling well, and they decided, you know what, we're not going to release them. And they were ordered to be destroyed. So if you do happen to have a copy out there, it's probably worth a lot of money. All right. Okay, so the thing was, why, because the singles were different in different parts of different territories, some songs charted higher than others. Sometimes there were singles that were released in one territory and not another. So that is the differences. So the songs are a little different because of that. All right, so let's start with the US version. Okay, the US version was also released in other countries. Originally it was going to be the UK version, but they decided on this. Now, like I told you, different songs charting in different territories. In Canada, for example, Can't Buy Me Love is on this thing. It was a #1 hit here, but in Canada it was only #3, only, right? And then it also, they had other #1s that are not on here, like All My Loving and This Boy. New Zealand, the New Zealand version is the same as the US. The covers were printed in New Zealand, and then the inner sleeve was printed in the United States. Yesterday, which is one of the singles that was released in the States, but it wasn't released on the UK, so you don't have Yesterday on there. Well, earlier copies on some of the vinyl had a running time of that of 104, but it's supposed to be 204, and was later corrected. Now, fortunately, I just found out today I have an early copy of it, so I'm kind of excited by that. And then the album has the first US appearance of I Want to Hold Your Hand and I Feel Fine in true stereo. Now let's talk about Hey Jude. This was something that got a lot of heat. Hey Jude was edited down from 7 minutes and 11 seconds to 5 minutes and 5 seconds. And most cassettes have the full version, but in the UK, all those versions are fine. They have the full version, but on the US, because of the different songs on there, they had to cut it down. So on the LP only, it was Hey Jude, short version. Now I listened to that today, and I do have to tell you, that it sounded fine to me. I mean, obviously we expect it, you know, to keep going on and on, but I will tell you, songs are always edited down from albums to singles to be played on the radio. That's just the way it always is. And Ideas, check out With a Little Luck from Paul McCartney and Wings. That was cut down for radio play. They have all that instrumental bit that was omitted. Okay, but rarely do you have a song that is edited to be put on an album. And since obviously this was, you know, like 10 plus years after the Beatles were a band, people were like, hey, what are you doing messing with a classic? And people weren't happy with it. I listened to it and I think it's a change. It was good. But in order to make it fit on this album with the limited time that you have on a vinyl, they had to cut it down a little bit. For example, this US album is 59 minutes and 31 seconds in length, and then the UK is 56 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, and that's on the Parlophone label. All right, so let me show you the UK version, okay? So the UK version basically includes all 19 tracks of the 17 Beatles singles to top the UK single charts. It also includes the double A-sides, Day Tripper, We Can Work It Out, Yellow Submarine, and Eleanor Rigby. Plus, it also features the first single from them, Love Me Do. Now, because it's an anniversary of Love Me Do and them on the singles charts, it peaked at number 17. It's not number 1, but they're included in the UK version because of that. The songs are in the original stereo mixes, except for Love Me Do and She Loves You. And originally those were recorded in mono. So because they wanted to have a stereo version, they did this process called duophonic versions, which basically are reprocessed into a type of artificial stereo. And then there's also the whispering mix intro for the song I Feel Fine, which is also included on the Red album. Okay? And then Please Please Me, curiously, is not on here, but like we had said, this includes the number 1 songs for the most part. Plus, Please Please Me was number 3 in the US and number 2 in the UK, so they're not on there. All right, so that's interesting and good to note. And remember George Martin, I think he said at the end, he says, boys, at the end of the recording session, you know, you just recorded your first number 1. I think he was talking about this, but I may be wrong. All right, so what's interesting in doing my research here is that in Australia, there was an album that came out in 1983 called The Number Ones, and it included an EP. All right, and that is interesting. Now that'll be a video for another day, but I thought that was interesting. So how did these songs chart on their, you know, in these different territories? How did this album chart when it came out? Well, it was 2 times platinum in the US, and the Billboard charts, though, it only got up to number 50. Like, really? And then in the UK, it got platinum, number 10. In New Zealand, it was number 4. In Canada, it was 3 times platinum at number 50. And then Australia, number 52. All right. So let me go through the songs real quick, and then I'll show you the vinyls. Okay? So going back to the US version, it starts off with She Loves You, Love Me Do, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Can't Buy Me Love, A Hard Day's Night, I Feel Fine, 8 Days a Week, which was a single here specifically, Ticket to Ride, Help, Yesterday, that was that US only single, We Can Work It Out, Paperback Writer, and then Penny Lane, All You Need Is Love, Hello Goodbye, Hey Jude, short version, Get Back, Come Together, Let It Be, and then The Long and Winding Road. And the UK version, I kind of like, I like it better, but I think it's missing some stuff at the end, but I'll read that to you. So then you start off with Love Me Do, From Me to You, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Can't Buy Me Love, A Hard Day's Night, I Feel Fine, Ticket to Ride, Help, Day Tripper, We Can Work It Out, Paperback Writer, Yellow Submarine, Eleanor Rigby, All You Need Is Love, Hello Goodbye, Lady Madonna, Hey Jude, Get Back, and here's a curious one, The Ballad of John and Yoko. I did not realize that that was number one. Did not realize that at all. Now, one of the things I'll say about the US version that I didn't like is it does not include the number one Something by George Harrison. That was a double A-sided single here in the States with Come Together. All right, so why don't we take a look at everything in a little closer detail here so you can see it. So this is the US version. I like it how at the time $9.39 was paid for this. $9.39 US dollars. It says 21 number one hits. And I like also the the look of this. Yeah, nice little illustrations from different periods of the Beatles. Their faces. And then this is this. Now I also had sheet music that I got as a gift the next year after this. I was just starting to play guitar and I got that as a gift, and I still have that, and I'll show that for another video. So that's that. Here is the vinyl. And I love the purple capital. I mean, I prefer in capital. I really like the rainbow better, but this was kind of fun too. Okay. And then this is the inner sleeve, which is nice. Now the thing I will say is that this is flimsier paper than the UK version. I was really kind of surprised by that. All right, you got that. And then here's the UK version. I like how the songs are up at the top there. A really good job. And then this is side by side each side, so that's kind of cool. All right. And oh, my favorite. See, when I was growing up, I didn't have Parlophone records. I had Capitol, so every time I see this, I'm just like, wow, that looks so classy. That looks so nice. So that's the label there. Okay. And look how much better this is. It's not flimsy. It's just really good. And it's the same as the US version. All right, now we're going to look at the cassettes. This is the US version. I like this one better than the UK version. Just like it. I like seeing the songs there. This is how I looked at the cassettes. The later ones have the black. They have the songs there too. There's nothing in here in the inlay, but then they list the songs here. And I love those cassettes, the white ones. I just think that is just really cool. And I love the Capitol on there, and these white cassettes are great. Now this is apparently a later pressing of it because it's XDR technology, and that's what the inlay talks about. So this was a later cassette edition of it. Now here's the UK. And a lot of times they would have this C inlay for details, meaning for the songs. Remember, I have a James Bond cassette like this. So we'll open that one up. We got that. All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching my video. You have a good day and you take care, okay? All right.